Well, hey everybody, it's Nate with Chords and Coffee, and we've got a special guest today with me, and literally we just met.
Yeah.
So this is John Michael Talbot. He's here getting a guitar plecked. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were referred to by Joe Glazier, who's a friend of ours down in Nashville.
Right.
And how long have you been playing guitar, if you don't mind me asking?
Since I was 8, and I'm 69.
So for a little while.
Yeah. How long is that? 51 years?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you're here getting probably the nicest classical guitar I have ever seen in my life, plecked. Here, real quick, let me show you this thing here that Danny's working on. There's Danny.
Danny's great.
John Michael, what is this guitar, and can you tell us about it?
Well, this guitar was given to me for my 50th CD release about 15 years ago, I guess. And it sat in the case, and I pulled it out a month ago, and I liked it. And I said, well, I want to get the action lowered, get it plecked, get the frets dressed. So that's what Danny has been doing here this afternoon. I'm getting ready to kind of check it out here in a little bit.
And Danny is live on Chords and Coffee, no pressure. That's awesome.
You're in the spotlight.
So it's classical guitar. That's a 2-inch nut, right? Pretty close to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's a wide one.
Yeah.
Because I know there's nylon string guitars. It's 2-inch, yeah. And then there's classical guitars, and like a legit classical guitar is usually a wider nut like
Sometimes. Now I have a Manuel Ramirez. I have two Manuel Ramirez the first, and those are parlor guitars. I don't have particularly big hands, so neither did Segovia, by the way. He had
really?
Tiny, but he was fat hands, and that's the guitar that he took around the world, and that's a smaller nut on it, and I like it because it's a small neck. I can get around on it pretty quick, but it's a parlor guitar. These are bigger guitars, and I have some that are like the Centenario, the 100th anniversary. This is the 150th anniversary model, but the 100th anniversary model, the Centenario, has a baffle in it created to get the wolf note out of the guitar. Because every guitar, Danny will tell you this, every guitar has a wolf note, which is an overtone at some point in the guitar that just kind of reverberates.
No, every classical or every acoustic?
Every acoustic guitar has a wolf note.
A wolf note, which is funny. I didn't know that, and that's funny because I've experienced that.
Yeah, every brass instrument has a wolf note. Every violin, every string instrument has a wolf note.
Something that, because of just the natural resonance of the guitar, when you hit that note, it kind of comes out at you. What's funny is that when I was a worship leader for 8 years, once upon a time, and I was playing in the sanctuary that we had, for whatever reason, the key of B, it would just run away. Like the bass player who was playing the 5-string would hit that low B and boom, just like that. That's funny. I didn't know that.
So every room, that's why you real time a room.
Yeah.
Every room has a frequency.
Yeah.
So now, so they put that in there to do that, and these kind of guitars are called boomers because they're made to fill a 1,500 to a 2,000 seat hall without amplification. Unmiked for classical music.
That's pretty wild.
I mic mine because I'm not really a great classical player. I'm really a folk classical player.
Well, Danny said you were pretty awesome, and you've been doing it for a hot minute. And by the way, so you got started with a band called Mason Prophet.
Yeah.
And then one thing led to another, and I did a quick Google search on YouTube. Yeah. And so with that, I saw that you guys were coming up kind of in the sort of in that Jesus Revolution movement,
right?
Like the movie that just came out. If you haven't seen it,
except for we just called it the Jesus movie.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't call it the Jesus Revolution.
Yeah, well, but it's the same time frame, and there was a lot of the same musicians, and so I would love to hear some stories about that. And I know you guys would too. But you are a Grammy award-winning, Dove award-winning artist, and you're super humble about it, which is wonderful. And now you're in a monastery.
Yeah.
And you've been playing guitar this whole time, and I would love to hear some stories about that. But also, did you start with classical?
No.
Yeah. So what was that transition?
Well, I started on banjo.
Really?
And I studied under some national champions and with Mason Prophet. At one point, I've been told that Earl Scruggs called me the best banjo player in the world. Now, a compliment like that is only as good as the time that the compliment is given, because there's always somebody better.
Sure.
It's just the nature of playing.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't let it go to your head, because that kind of playing is like fast guns. Okay?
Yeah.
There's just always somebody better.
Yeah. That's a great analogy too.
Yeah.
That whole gunfighter thing with guitar players.
There's always somebody better.
Yeah.
And so I then switched to acoustic guitar, and I was kind of a cross between. I'd been playing kind of the style that Stephen Stills played, but before I ever heard of Stephen Stills.
So are you using like even open tunings and things like that?
No.
Okay.
Just the way the guitar is attacked.
Yeah.
But because of that, I broke a lot of strings.
Okay.
So when I got into Christian music and as a soloist, the Lord said, switch to classical, because I didn't have to change strings for every concert.
Okay.
I could go 4, 5, 6 concerts without changing strings.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Yeah, and a lot of people, when we think classical, we tend to think of easier to play, but looking at those strings,
it's harder. I started, on acoustic, and then I went to electric. Electric covers a lot of sins.
Oh yeah, well the amplifier itself.
You can cover a lot of sins.
Yeah.
Acoustic guitar, like I played Martins all my life. I played some Gibsons, but I played Martins. And I'm still a connoisseur of old Martin guitars. You can cover a lot of mistakes just by the nature of the steel string. You like it, Danny? You liking it?
Yeah, I didn't get the action as low as we talked about.
We're still working on it.
I didn't, I don't have much more room on the bridge to go.
Okay, that's fine.
And,
No.
But I did bring it down at the nut a little bit here on the high strings. So
that's good.
If you want to get her.
So Danny just finished plecking this, and if you're not familiar with the pleck process, what that is here, Josh, jump on this, the pleck process.
Pleck
Here's
process.
Josh.
So, hey, yes, the pleck machine is a good analogy is you can take a normal guitar, you put it in our telephone booth over there, the pleck machine. It does its wizardry, and when it comes out, it's Superman.
That is a good analogy. What it does is it does a fret dress, and it reads what the neck is doing at full tension.
Right.
Which for the human eye, it's dang near impossible.
From my understanding, it's able to measure at 3/1000ths of a millimeter.
So 3/1000ths of a millimeter accuracy. And when you get your guitar plecked, and it may be a great guitar. I mean, I had my Fender Custom Shop pleck. You've seen me playing that telly. You get way more resonance. Speaking of resonance, keep playing that thing. Are you tuned to standard or are you tuned lower?
I tuned down to lute tuning. I tuned a step down.
And so a whole step down is lute tuning?
Lutes are tuned to D.
Oh, that's cool.
Like there are different lute tunings. There's Baroque and Renaissance. So I played a Renaissance lute, and that's
and I know a lot of guys who play classical like their action a little higher.
They do.
Yeah. Is that for the resonance factor of it?
Yeah. And you have to work at it. It's not a bad thing to have to work at it.
Yeah.
I like it, Danny. So I don't want to lower it too much, because if it gets too low, it stops being...
Part of the pleck process, when Joe Glazier was here, I remember he said, and this is not a Chords and Coffee about Plex, but this is just happening in real time, so we're talking about it. But Joe Glazier said that you want the action as high as you can stand it, because just like what John Michael said, is that the resonance. I mean, think of like a jump rope. Like if we were doing double jump rope and we were swinging it like this, it's making this elliptical pattern. And so what the Plek does is some of the frets are barely kissing that string as it's making that elliptical pattern, and the Plek picks that up. Other ones are obviously touching it and creating a buzz, and you could hear that, and that's a lot easier to find. But it's those ones that are just barely, like I said, kissing it, right? That you want to get knocked down, and the machine takes care of that. But it's just a tool. You still got to have a guy like this, or a guy like Danny.
We still have to go through. So once the Plek has gone through and it's scanned the entire neck and every single fret, it gives us a bunch of graphs that we go over. And Danny and I are trained where we can look at the graphs and we can see the numbers, and we go, okay, we know we need from fret 2 to 6 needs to be worked on, and we'll go through and we'll tweak the entire range of all the frets and make truss rod adjustments and this and that while it's in the machine to get it perfect.
Yeah, and Josh is a player, Danny is a player, but there's also other players here, and it's really common for, Josh or Danny to be like, hey, come over here real quick and play this thing. I think we're right, but tell me if you think it's a little too high.
And that's something I like to do a lot. I come to you, or Mike is a great guitar player and a good asset that I like to use. I'll hand him a guitar and go, man, play this whole thing, pay attention to it, let me know what you think could be changed or messed with or tweaked a little bit, and he'll play it. He'll be honest with me. He'll go, you know what?
We want it to be right.
If I'm being critical, this spot right here could use a little more, and then we'll go in and we'll
go figure a bunch of guitar players being like, just a little. Okay, so very normal. Well, here, it's back to you. Are you happy? Good?
Very much so.
That's awesome.
Danny's a miracle worker.
He is. Look at him.
So anyway, where were we?
Well, so you played electric, and you were playing electric. We made some profit, and we transitioned into classical.
Classical reveals every imperfection in your playing.
It's unforgiving.
Yeah. And it's here.
Yeah.
It's in your left hand, but it's mainly in your right hand, and that's why your nails are so important. Your nails have got to be just right.
And are your nails on your left hand trimmed super low, or they're more normal? Whereas these are more like you're
and
picking.
These are longer. And I used to use acrylic nails, and a lot of classical players now use acrylic nails. But once you get into acrylic nails, you're stuck. To take them off and grow them out, it takes months to get your natural nail back. So once COVID hit and I wasn't doing concerts, I said, "To heck with this! I'm gonna grow my nails back." So these are natural nails.
That's so cool. So
now, by the way, regarding this humility thing, let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
We were playing the Auditorium Theater in Chicago, Mason Prophet. Delaney and Bonnie.
Oh, another great group.
Were playing, and Eric Clapton was in the band. Okay.
That's awesome. And what year is this for?
Oh, golly, I don't know. That was... I don't know. I mean, that might have been...
That's got to be 70-something.
70.
Yeah.
So Delaney and Bonnie, we were playing in between. And so there was Delaney and Bonnie, we were the second build group, Mason Prophet. And the opening act was James Gang, which was cool. Joe Walsh.
Yeah.
So we're standing in the wings during the sound check, watching James Gang do their sound check, because you always do the opening group as the last sound check, because they don't have to move anything.
Yeah.
And Eric Clapton walks up, and he goes, "Well, I really like your band." And like we're going, whoa, all these signs were around. Eric Clapton is God, right?
Yeah, right.
So like the best guitarist on the stage at that point, anyway, just said he likes our band, and he was really humble. And the thing was, Delaney wasn't letting him take any leads. Delaney was doing all the lead work.
Oh wow!
And we asked him. We said, "Why aren't you doing more leads?" And he says, "I don't know. He wants to do the leads." So, and he was just playing rhythm.
And happy to do it.
Didn't
he want to be in that band at some point? Or that was the band.
That was
the band. The band.
Oh.
Yeah, like Last Waltz band.
But anyway, so he and then James Gang is playing, and we're listening. And he pointed to Joe Walsh and he said, see, there's always somebody better.
Joe, did you know that? Joe Walsh, wherever you're at, that's pretty high praise.
And he was referring to himself.
Oh.
Meaning that Joe Walsh was better
yes.
than him.
Yeah.
And we walked away from that. We said, take a lesson.
Yeah.
Take a lesson. The guy that was being called the best guitarist in the world is humble. Now, he might have all these other problems in his life, but he's musically humble.
Do you find, and you've been around a lot of different players, but do you, and I know that especially in terms of, let's call it, the worldly measure of greatness, that there is a spectrum of what that greatness is. But do you find the people that are truly great and like impactful and have like a timeless impact in terms of their music just tend to be more humble than others?
My experience of the music business is the really great ones are very humble and very approachable. It's the intermediate ones that come off like egomaniacs.
Interesting.
But the really great ones that have nothing to prove are very humble and they're very approachable and they're just regular people. I'm working on a new version of my biography right now, and I just wrote this chapter on Mason Prophet. That's what I'm talking about, Mason Prophet.
Yeah.
But we were around, we never played with Hendrix or the Beatles or the Stones or the Who or Dylan, but just about everybody else you can think of, we played with them. We shared stages with them, and you know, it was just, and everybody did. It wasn't special. Anybody who was anybody played with everybody. And the ones who were really great were just, you know, you got underneath the glitter and the glitz, and they were just musicians. They were just musicians. They just wanted to make good music, and they wanted to be appreciated for their music. And that was it. You know, Janice, God bless her, she tragic end, but she hung out in our dressing room and we just talked music. We played with her at a place called Ravinia, and she just wanted to hang out with the band. She was just a band member.
Yeah.
But she was Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
But she didn't come off like Janis Joplin. She was just a band member. And she was real insecure. How do you like my band? Did you like this song? Did you think this song was better than that song? Because we heard her in the sound check.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to fly back to LA on the red eye, and she was real bummed out that we couldn't see her set. Now, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that went on all the time with everybody.
That's awesome.
Just talking music, you know.
So, you know, it's the 70s and you guys are well on your way and you're touring a lot, you're, you know, playing in front of a lot of people. And Mason Prophet, I mean, you guys cut some albums, right? I mean,
we did 5 or 6. What killed us was, I always forget his name. He was, he was John Denver's manager and Elvis Presley's co-manager. Did all the Ocean's 11 and all those movies. He wanted to be our manager, but his what he wanted to do was he wanted to, and Joe Smith from Warner's, we were on Warner's, he wanted to have Terry and me write half the songs because we were into real social comment, anti-war songs. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to bring 5 hit songs to the group and for us to do them. And he wanted to bring in, he didn't want us to use the band, but he wanted to bring in the very best session players and have me and Terry play and sing on the record. And I wasn't in on this conversation, my older brother was, and Terry said no. And because of that, we were a group that was, the whole industry was saying we were going to be the next super group because our live performance was just untouchable. It really was. It was amazing. But we couldn't record. we couldn't make records.
It's a different
Different animal.
different deal.
Different animal. And once we said no to that proposal, Warner said, well, we'll still put out music, but we're not going to really push it. So our momentum was lost, and then the band began to unravel, and we broke up after a couple of years.
So back when you were doing that, were you playing like a Les Paul? What
I was playing pedal steel guitar, banjo, and acoustic guitar.
Okay,
That was my gig.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so
Utility man.
Yeah, utility man, exactly. And you were
Singing.
Yeah.
And I was singing, I wrote some of my own songs, and I would sing lead on my song.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Pedal steel. It's like flying a helicopter.
Yeah.
It's funny.
So counterintuitive. I mean,
I feel like every guitar player has a moment where you're like, you know what, I'm going to learn lap steel. Or you know what I mean? And so I had a Dan Hatfield, if you're watching this, I had a dear friend of mine, actually Chris Hatfield's dad, Dan Hatfield's a great pedal steel player. And he said, I tell you what, I'll let you borrow a lap steel. Let you borrow it for as long as you need. Just kind of scratch that itch. And he was right, because it's like, at first it's like, well, I can do this, I can get this together, but it is a whole other wrestling match.
it's
Yeah.
like having a lawyer. It's better to hire an attorney. So we have a real good friend. His name is Al Perkins. He was with the Flying Burrito Brothers and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
He is now that man. When he takes a solo and plays a lead, and he's not playing his pedal so much anymore, but he played pull string, and he also played lap steel. But when he plays lap steel, the whole house stands up in cheers. He's that good.
That's awesome.
He was with Manassas with Steven Stills. So
That's
he's
awesome.
really good. Okay, well,
Well,
what else do you want to talk about?
well, I tell you what.
'Cause I got to get.
I know you got to get, and we're about out of time. If you could leave us with, there's somebody watching this right now
Okay.
that's playing guitar, that maybe there's something going on in their life, or maybe, guitar has these mountains and valleys that you go through, because even though so many people play guitar, I mean, it's not easy, and it's just like anything else, like we were talking about earlier, anything worth doing is going to have some difficulty to it, right? What kind of encouragement would you give to somebody to just keep going, just to stay after it? And also, to your point earlier, I mean, though Mason Prophet didn't end up where maybe you would have liked it when you started it,
Oh, no.
the truth is you're still playing music.
Yeah,
Right?
I did far better. I sold multi-platinum records for a long time after Mason Prophet. God had his hand on it. Had we gotten super big the way the industry thought we were going to be, I'm pretty sure 2 or 3 of our guys would have ended up dead.
Sure.
I have no doubt about it. We were headed that way already. One of them would have been, I believe, my older brother. And now he's leading worship at a church in Fresno, California, poor as a church mouse and happier than you can ever imagine. So I talked to him about it just this morning, and he says, I have no doubt that we made all the right decisions. So number one, put your trust in God and have faith that God is guiding your path. But number two, I don't know whether you guys can see this,
Right there.
right there.
Yeah.
These things are soft right now, but when I was learning to play, these calluses, I had to practice every day, and these calluses would build up and break and bleed, and they would tear away from the fingernail over and over and over again for years. And I loved music. I would sit with my acoustic guitar and I would put my ear on the box and I would play one note, and I fell in love with the sound of one note. I would watch the note resonate and just be enthralled by how a note resonated on the box. And I think any great musician will say the same thing. I just fell in love with the sound of music, and I was willing to go through all that pain and practice. And I found a great teacher and stayed with it. But if you don't put in that pain, no pain, no gain. If you don't put that time in, you're not going to break through. The other thing, I use this example with my voice, I had to imitate other singers for years and years and years before all of a sudden my voice all of a sudden just went boom. And it was my voice. It wasn't somebody else's voice. It was my voice. And it was that voice that people wanted to hear and that sold all those millions of records. And the same thing is true with playing. We imitate other players over and over and over for years and years and years. And all of a sudden, you play and it's your sound. Nobody else sounds like that. So you got to stay with it. If you really love music, you're going to stay with it. And if you don't really love music, it's okay to play music just for fun.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
To go get a nice guitar and play it after work and play it on the weekends, that's called an amateur. The word comes from the word amor, which means love. And I have lots and lots of friends who are great amateurs. They will never play professionally, and they will never be slick and sell records, and they get frustrated when they can't make records. And I go, don't get frustrated. Don't make a record. Just do it for fun.
Man.
Do it because you love music. And, you know, so there are different levels of music. So find out what you are and stay with it and enjoy it. You said we don't work guitar, we play guitar.
We play it, yeah.
So whatever level you are in, play music. Do it because it remains to be fun. Even after all that work, it has to be fun. It has to be fun.
That's a lot of wisdom.
So
Guys, please go online and johnmichaeltalbot.com.
that's it.
That's
all
it.
one word.
Yeah, John Michael Talbot, Talbot, right?
That's it.
Yeah, go download. There's a ton of music, great music out there. If you can, support this guy and leave a comment below. I don't know if there's ever been a better Chords and Coffee as far as wisdom that has been just, divvied out here. So thank you for that. Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
God bless you.
Thank you, buddy.
Hey guys, I love you, appreciate you. You're the most encouraging guitar community on the internet. We'll see you again next Saturday for another Chords and Coffee.
Amen.